Good morning and welcome to Talking Point here on WESN. This is the Content Capital. I am Keaton Shah. It is Thursday, the 24th of March, 2022. And oh boy, what a wonderful day it was yesterday. I mean, there was quite a bit that took place within the walls of Parliament as the debate over local government legislation, that motion was moved and the debate continues. We heard from the Minister of Public Administration, Kemi Robinson-Regis, who's now the Minister of Housing, my apologies, who actually laid motion. And then we heard from Khadija Amin, who is the Shadow Minister of Local Government, and her contribution. Well, we don't have much on that because honestly, there wasn't much from her contribution, and we'll get into that a bit later on. But there are a couple of stories that we will just quickly analyze this morning before getting into our main topics. And with me, of course, as always, is my good friend, my colleague and co-host, Mr. Sean Michael Small. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Keaton. And yes, it's another day in Trinidad, and this is an interesting point because the new legislation seems to be, maybe you could say, ambitious. Meanwhile, there's still a lot of questions, some of which the Prime Minister was asked about, some of the issues within the last 2 to 3 months. He was grilled by the opposition. Some of his answers were fine, but didn't necessarily give us much. And you could maybe question if that started the bubble, the tone of the day, if that set the tone in the wrong direction, both how he was questioned and in some cases how he answered those questions.
I think you're trying to be rather polite and kind, Sean. Let's just face it. It seemed quite a lot of rage on the part of the Prime Minister, and I have a reason why, which we will get into shortly. But in relation to the legislation, ambitious, yes, but if fully implemented to the degree that Minister Robinson-Regis highlighted, it'll be damn good.
Right,
I'm saying it right now.
But meanwhile, there's still questions around. But meanwhile, there are still questions about things that recently happened. We still don't necessarily, and this is very interesting, Cabinet seems to be moving forward. The Attorney General was all in on his role as the Minister of Local Government. In the debate, he seemed to
former Attorney General.
Former Attorney General. He seemed to speak very well and had a good grasp of the legislature, which is now in his new role. But there's still questions with regards to, the former AG's last act. And we don't necessarily have answers with regards to that. And it's just one part of that reshuffle. So to help us with that, it's something that I do want to hear, because when it happened, we weren't able to comment on some of the claims made by Mr. McIntyre back and forth between him and the former AG. But we have with us Karen Shishera, former Minister of Finance, but attorney at law, someone who knows some of the players in this very well. Good morning, Karen.
Yes, good morning to you, Sean. Good morning to you, Keaton. And of course, good morning to your viewers. Yes, I'm happy to be here with you as usual. Sorry I couldn't make it yesterday, but I am hopefully a team player, so here I am today.
Good morning, Karen. Good to have you on. I know we couldn't have you on yesterday, but it's always great to see you on the program. And yes, one of the Attorney General's last acts, at least, is in relation to it seems as though there was a bit of a rift between himself and Senior Counsel Ian McIntyre over trying to push a policy that's, according to Senior Counsel McIntyre, can only be done through a specific system, especially under various ministries. It will differ. And the Attorney General seemed to have gotten quite upset with him. He even reported him. And now Ian McIntyre has the attorneys on behalf of Ian McIntyre has written to the new Attorney General, Reginald Amor, requesting that it be rescinded. What are your thoughts on this? And this is perhaps one of the reasons why the Attorney General was the former Attorney General was removed from that post and shifted to another ministry. At least that is one of the reasons that it was circulating within the press and within the media.
Well, I mean, it's a reasonable cause, given all the antecedents with relation to legislation in relation to the issue that started with him with his children, and the other attorneys general from both sides of the equation, both said no, they never did any of that kind of practice with their children, with high-powered rifles, and then this issue with the young school thing. So it is one thing on top of the other. And then I think poor advice in relation to the mandatory vaccination. So it kept piling on, I think. With regard to this specific issue, as I told you, I know Ian McIntyre. And the reason I know him is because when I was Minister of Finance, we were charged with passing a lot of legislation. We had a 3/5 majority. So it was the Prime Minister's desire that we take advantage of that opportunity, that we could pass legislation that needed the 3/5. That would have been the Revenue Authority and other pieces of legislation. But the drafting department or commission of the Attorney General was overworked and understaffed. So we went about looking for a draftsperson that would work as a consultant with us. And Ian McIntyre came highly, highly recommended. In fact, we considered ourselves, and I'm not saying that I'm saying that because it was how we felt. We felt very, very lucky that we could get him because he was a consultant. He had worked with the ministries before, apparently, but then was doing consultancy work all over the world, including, I think his last appointment was at the BVI, one of the other islands. So he was highly, highly regarded as a draftsperson. So he came to us, and all I can say are good things about him. I have never, ever, ever seen him appear angry, always professional, always present, always a person that I think exhibited a high level of integrity, and certainly felt, in my view, that what he was doing was giving back to his country. Because I suspect he gave up other good opportunities in order to come to us. So we were able to get the property tax, the Revenue Authority, gambling legislation, all of those things were drafted. They may not have been passed in the Parliament, but we certainly were able to achieve a lot. And I can say without a doubt that had a lot to do with him. Now, with regard to the issue at hand, there's nothing in the legislation that says what the process is. But as I say, I mean, I know of no situation, none, where one could take a bill to Parliament unless it has been signed off via a cabinet note, finalized by a cabinet minute, which is collective responsibility, because policy is policy of the government. The government is not the Attorney General. The Attorney General may also have bills he wishes to take to the Parliament, but there are a number of other ministries, and it is through his ministry that the policy is turned into legislation. And the department in the Attorney General's office that deals with that, the Chief Parliamentary Council Department, of which Mr. McIntyre is the head. So unless it's a matter of extreme urgency, that require like a state of emergency, something like that, then the Prime Minister may do so, but then afterwards issue a cabinet minute in order to get the cabinet approval. But for you to go directly from the AG's office directly to Parliament and present a bill, which in some cases I understand were returned because they were so poorly drafted, without the intervention, without the knowledge of the Chief Parliamentary Council, it is unheard of. I mean, I don't know. I genuinely don't know of any constitution that like that, and for the Attorney General to the language that he has used in his letters, I mean, it speaks so poorly of him in terms of emotive language, insubordination, failure to follow the policy, and that's why the Prime Minister probably is being very quiet about it, because, and I feel sorry for Reginald Armour, who I think is a very good attorney and senior counsel, but he's now entered into the world of politics. And how does he navigate himself in not calling the Attorney General over the coals? And finally, I think Ian McIntyre, which I have never gotten the impression that he was political at all. He never expressed political views. He never had political discussion. I never. So I never knew where he stood, and I was not interested. So I do think that his choice of Anand Ramlogan was a good choice because he was an attorney general. And if anybody knows what the correct process should be, and is a former attorney general, and there's no question whatever Anand Ramlogan's other whatever issues he may have, he is an excellent attorney.
I do apologize for laughing because you know.
Why you laugh?
The reason why I'm laughing is because I'm also wondering if Anand Ramlogan, when he was AG, followed the correct procedure.
I mean, that's a good question. That's a good question. But I would assume he would have been the chief parliamentarian counsel
as AG.
When Anand Ramlogan was the AG, correct? Mr. McIntyre would have been there. So I would assume then that Mr. Ramlogan as AG did not necessarily do something similar to this or break tradition. And I say tradition because it's, as Karen, you said, it's not necessarily a rule, but it seems to be how the business has been conducted as far as anyone is concerned.
Well,
yeah, because that's collective responsibility of cabinet. A minister cannot decide that he wants to do X, Y, and Z and not get the cabinet of which he's a part, their approval. He can't go off on his own. It's not his government. He's part of a cabinet, and the way that you show that is policy of the government is through bringing a cabinet note, having it reduce a cabinet minute, and giving instructions through the Attorney General for the preparation of the drafting of legislation, which I have been part of with a lot of my legislation that was prepared during my time. That's what would happen. Then they would have a meeting. That is that division would have a meeting with the line minister and go through the legislation with them, go through changes to the bill, go through corrections, go through amendments, and get a final product, which is the final product, which would then be sent to cabinet for the cabinet to say, yes, do they approve this? This is the bill that we intend to put to parliament. Are you in approval? You go through it a bit with them. And that's how it goes. And I know of no situation otherwise.
And, well, I think we need to break and head to the next topic. But just want to remind people, one of the complaints put forward was, if this was done, well, the AG would potentially be unilaterally drafting policy for other ministries. And therein lies the problem. You know, there are ministers for other ministries. At the very least, they should have some sort of input.
I think it also goes once more to show just the extent the controversy surrounding the Attorney General. As you said, we only know what has been said within the public domain, be it within the walls of Parliament. But outside of what was stated, I mean, this alone shows to the extent that it seems as though he was pushing a few red buttons, and whether or not the Prime Minister actually became aware of these things.
He CC'd, he included the Prime Minister in the communication.
I know, I get that. I'm talking about in terms of all the buttons that were being pushed.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah.
Whether or not the Prime Minister became aware of that at the time that he made that decision, or if this was something that was taking place throughout the last couple of months or last couple of years, who knows?
It begs the question as to why. I don't necessarily want to speculate because it's too open-ended. There's no indication of what was the true motivation, because I don't think it was just, well, I'm the boss and you need to listen to what I say, because that's not how it's been done before. So, but that is the question I am curious, but I don't think I'll ever get an answer to. But
well, let
me just say one thing on the law. No bill could have reached to the Parliament unless it had gotten cabinet approval. So even if the Prime Minister was not brought in before, if he sees a bill coming in cabinet to be in Parliament, he has to know when was this approved by cabinet? When was this approved by cabinet? When did we discuss this matter in cabinet?
Right.
It just goes to show you folks, but just before we take a break for Talking Point, let's just quickly update you on a couple of news in relation to the Guaracara refinery. The 4 companies who have submitted bids have until the beginning of April, the first week of April, to complete current due diligence that is being done and submit revised proposals. Minister Stuart Young confirmed this yesterday, stating that the revised proposals will be further evaluated to select a preferred bidder. So that's the latest. I think it's something that you and I raised earlier this week.
I think, well, the price of oil makes the refinery a little bit more palatable?
Well, it depends on the state and the condition that the refinery is in at this point. Also, in relation to the Commission of Inquiry that was started, the actual inquiry has not started, but has been put together by the government to look at the Parafuel Trading Company Limited, where 4 LMCS divers lost their lives. The company will be led by geotechnical engineers engaged by NIDCO. They will have an international investigative firm and 2 members within the Commission of Inquiry. No start date has been given as yet for when this begins, but remember, they have 6 months from the start of the inquiry, not 6 months from the date it was announced, 6 months from the start of the inquiry. So that is yet to be seen. The Prime Minister gave no definitive date, stating that how it is an independent decision and up to the chairman of the Commission of Inquiry to decide when is the best time to start. But the more we delay, the more we might forget about this. And that's the thing. The more we delay, the more other issues might arise, and people will turn their attention to that. And maybe that is what you have to bear in mind as well. So those are just the things that we like to update you with. But for now, let's take a break here on Talking Point. When we return, we get into the discussions of local government this morning. Stay tuned to the program.
Change your fate! Start to win at life with $20,000 every month. Win $20,000 every month for 20 years with NLCB's newest game, Win for Life. 6 numbers from 28 plus the cash ball could make you win for life. You deserve a win. Play Win for Life today. Visit NLCBGames.com for details. Players must be 18 years and over. Please play responsibly.
Gift giving during a lockdown can still be hassle-free with a gift from FanZone with delivery options available nationwide. Visit and browse our Facebook and Instagram pages for all your official licensed merchandise and apparel and have it delivered to your door. Find us on Facebook and Instagram. FanZone, we've got you covered.
The best for your baby is at thebesttoys.com. From the best strollers, car seats, baby carriers, high chairs, booster seats, rockers, jumpers and bouncers, walkers, baby blankets, feeding accessories, bathtubs. Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship McLean. Shop online now at thebesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 332-BABY. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit?
Yes.
What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive. It is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole. It's for all of us in public.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
Welcome back to Talking Point here on WESN. Okay, folks, so yesterday the motion was moved to debate the local government reform bill. Amendments to local government will see them gain more authority, more responsibility, more autonomy, of course. Now, there are a couple of concerns, especially as it relates to the role of the Ministry of Finance. But for the most part, if this is fully implemented as promised by the government, because again, legislation is passed, does that mean it's implemented and practiced? That may not necessarily be the case. We're yet to see. But for the most part, this is actually good, for the most part. And this morning, we're going to take a look at what was stated yesterday and have a bit of a debate on it. So, Sean, yesterday in Parliament, we heard from the Minister of Housing, Camille Robinson-Regis. She's also the government chief whip, and she's indicated, she laid it out for everyone to hear.
I assume because she was, she was on the committee rather, and she gave the history. This process was started. It included, I think, Minister Khan as well, and former Minister.
It's included former Minister Khan. It also included Clarence Shamrat. It's included Senator Anna Roberts. It's included Vandana Mohit and Shadow Minister of Local Government, Khadija Amin.
So if you watch the whole session, you could watch a lot of other parliamentarians comment on it, but We've cut at it for this the technicalities rather of the report out from Ms. Robinson-Regis' presentation. So let's have the first clip where she describes some of the expanded responsibilities local government entities will undertake if this is implemented.
The bill allows local government bodies to determine their own destinies. Accordingly, the following functional areas of responsibility will be expanded: public health, municipal policing, spatial planning and building inspectorate, disaster management, repairs and maintenance to public buildings, and repairs and maintenance to cemeteries and crematoria. The additional areas of responsibility will include secure funding, that is to say, facilitating access to various income streams, social welfare services, management and repair of community centers, the development of small contractors from within the area of focus, civil society participation, economic research and planning, local government development units for each corporation, improved information and communication technology, and improved monitoring and evaluation of all local government services. The benefits, therefore, to this reformed system of local government will be secured funding, improved government, greater autonomy and accountability, the more effective and efficient delivery of services, balanced regional development, increased participation and involvement by the citizenry and civil society, more robust monitoring and evaluation to ensure value for money in the delivery and quality of services, and the increased local economic development and sustainability of local communities.
So that is a long list of things that will be added to local government. And one of the ways that the report intends for it to be financed is through the somewhat controversial, has already been debated and in the news, part of the national discussion, property tax. Property tax, of course, in theory, will then go to the various local government entities that will collect it. At least I'm not entirely sure with regards how the process will be implemented, because and we have another video that goes into some more of the structure of how these things will be organized. But one of the things is that Minister Regis did say that the corporations will be reporting directly to the Minister of Finance. An interesting twist that we could get into later on.
Well, actually, what is also interesting is that the minister noted that each corporation will have their own needs. And in having their own needs, it's going to be different, the framework of how it's about to go about. Now, in doing that, that is where she points out that the Minister of Finance will have oversight. She said that yesterday in her presentation as well. I believe we have her explaining that a bit more.
Yeah, okay, so we could run the second clip now, and it goes into some of the more, if the first clip was ambitious, this might be equally so, if not more so.
A generic structure for corporations was recommended, with the municipal council being given the responsibility for additions to the structure to fit each corporation's needs. Each council be required to establish an audit committee to, among other things, review the financial statements of the council, provide advice on the council's strategic management plan, and the annual business plan and review the adequacy of the council's internal controls. These committees will therefore become embedded as an important part of local government's financial and governance performance measurement framework. This is essential, Madam Speaker, because we have seen from an investigation of some of the corporations that there are audit and financial issues. So there is now an assurance that financial transactions of the councils will be conducted properly and in accordance with law. In addition to the municipal council, each mayor or chairman will be afforded the opportunity to select an executive council from amongst nominated and elected members of council, and the executive council will comprise not fewer than 5 members and not more than 8 full-time members, including the mayor, the deputy mayor, and such other councillors or aldermen, not being more than 6, who will be assigned the responsibility for any of the functions of a division of the corporation. One of the key fundamental changes is the delivery or enactment of the long-awaited reform which will transition regional corporations into autonomous bodies similar to the Tobago House of Assembly, that this decentralization will strengthen the principles of transparency and accountability, and these corporations will now report directly to the Ministry of Finance.
So there it is, very, very ambitious with regards to the scope of changes, I would say. So, I mean, Karen, I have to ask you, what is your take on this? Because I'm not sure if some discussions such like this might have been brought up in your time in cabinet, but it seems as though they're taking property tax, and I don't know if it's going to be able to pay for all of this, particularly now, with the economic recovery at the state that it's in.
Well, I'm sorry if I seem to be not totally excited, and it probably is because it is a very ambitious goals, and on paper it sounds, without having looked at it in greater detail, it seems that its intentions are good, like similar to the Procurement Act, which we know did not achieve the stated objectives. But I'm trying to find, the property tax. The issue with that was when as you say, during when I was in government, was that the municipal corporation, I think it was Part 4, was repealed, and that was allowing the municipal corporations to collect the taxes and use those taxes. They call them, can't remember, house rates. Even and house rates didn't mean a house. It meant a shop, it meant a factory, it meant anything that was a building. And use those house rates for the particular municipality, whether it's Port of Spain or a borough. What I'm not clear about is where's the funding coming from? So do they intend to set up we have the Green Fund, do they intend to set up a separate fund for property tax fund, which is the property taxes that they get from the property tax that they are going to implement at some time in the future, and use that and how it will be distributed? It's a lot of good talk, but based on implementation of this government, I'm not going to hold my breath at all.
Because they say report to the Minister of Finance. So I'm kind of confused. How are you going to be decentralized and autonomous for transparency? But then now, that's an interesting question. You could have the property tax going, but if it's still collected centrally and given out centrally, how autonomous could they really be?
I think that was my main issue, and that's why I kept stressing before, the framework for each. There's a generic framework as understood, but generally the needs of the corporation will differ, and so their framework in itself may differ as well. But it has to go through the Minister of Finance, which is rather confusing because we get it.
There it is.
We understand that, first of all, the Minister of Finance is corporation, so. But does that really play a role in this? And where does it go back to? The entire debate about the funds of property tax, where an actual fund, a separate fund, should be created where property tax goes into, it's like a kitty in other words, and is then distributed to the different corporations. And then again, you have a minister of local government who is there to ensure that all these things take place. So what is the point of including the Minister of Finance in the framework? To me, it just goes again to say, okay, fine, great legislation, as I said on paper, fully implemented, excellent, great, whatnot. But this entire thing about the Minister of Finance having oversight over the finances and funding, with everything that they called out, bear in mind, everything that they called out is going to cost more, because not only are you hiring more personnel, but you want to implement more projects and expand the responsibilities and duties of the corporation. It is going to cost more. Is it, with how things have been over the last couple of years, going to have an effect on how funds are released from the Ministry of Finance to local government corporations?
Let me add to that, Karen, because I really want you to answer it as a former Minister of Finance. I remember with regards to the ferry, it was the Minister of Finance who took point on that and not the Minister of Works and Transport. He was determining, what the money was spent on. Okay. Now we have a Minister of Local Government, as Keaton said, who has been newly shifted to the role, and now we're hearing that. But the Minister of Finance they will directly report to the Minister of Finance. So this seems kind of odd to me. Does the Minister of Finance usually have so much authority over other areas of the country?
Well, I'll give Caribbean Airlines as an example. The Caribbean Airlines comes under the Ministry of Finance only because the Ministry of Finance is corporate in soul, and it is the responsible for all state enterprises. But it also comes under the Ministry of Works, which has everyday oversight over the workings of the Ministry of Works. So it comes across very strange to me that it's going back to the Minister of Finance. And I want to say that in her speech, she noted that there was a lot of two corporations they looked at. They were obviously dissatisfied with how they were being run and the lack of accountability and auditing. So I want to know if, with all of these changes, if she expects a different outcome. It looks like pie in the sky and tick off a box and we pass local government legislation, and so that we can say at the end of the day we did this. But I'm not sure, but let's wait and see. But I'm not very confident about what will be the outcome based on past.
Well, I like how you said let's wait and see, because the debate continues, and I'd just like to inform everyone on this panel, if you didn't already, as we get into the politics of this, because of course politics is a part of this as well. Sean, two UNC corporations, one being Sangre Grande, has the chairman of Sangre Grande, he has issued his support, saying that he's very excited over this particular bill. Oh! Yes, he is very excited over this particular bill. Now, the members of the opposition who were part of the team were against it. And as I said, nothing goes without controversy. There is debate about it. We will hear about it. But again, politics played its role in Parliament.
So now, to be fair, as I said, the tone might have been set from before this part of the session. But Minister Robertson-Regis, she actually, one of the first things that she opened up her presentation with was the dissent of the opposition. So before we get into some more pointed remarks from one of the opposition members, let's hear what the minister said in her presentation on the third clip.
It is unfortunate, and I must repeat, that those who are in opposition continue to try to taint these processes in which they participated freely. And Madam Speaker, from this detailed historical overview that I have already presented, it ought to be pellucidly clear to the embattled opposition and the embattled opposition leader that sufficient consultation has already taken place and that now is the time for action, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is troubling that the opposition had every opportunity to come up with additional stakeholders whom they may have deemed necessary, or to even come up with additional ideas in relation to this bill. They did none of that, Madam Speaker, and then resorted to this nonsensical mantra of insufficient consultation. Madam Speaker, we reject that out of hand. But Madam Speaker, one doesn't have to be a snake charmer to understand the language of serpents, and therefore we categorically reject that accusation as dishonest, tactless, and factless, Madam Speaker.
Okay, so I don't necessarily disagree with everything, but I do disagree with some obvious things. But I think let's just play the UNC member, Khadija Amin.
Just before we play Khadija Amin's thing, I'd like to point out, and I'd like to try and be fair here for the most part at least, that last comment about being a snake charmer and serpents is very unnecessary. It's strong and it sets an extremely bad tone. Now, one could argue that this is politics and it's a good old-fashioned debate and nothing wrong was said. However, folks, understand that Karen, I see you shaking your head as well.
Well, hold on.
That got to me a bit.
Let's hear the UNC's members. I think she was the first responder, and then Karen, I'll let you weigh in once you hear the full extent of the back and forth. The third clip. Sorry, Miss Khadija Amin.
Trinidad and Tobago could tell when a local government election is due, because it is the only time that the PNM pays any attention to local government. Outside of that, it is mamagai and neglect. And I do agree that the government has met its mandate for local government reform if its mandate is to mamagai the population. But I want to put on the record that the major reforms in local government in this country was never done by the PNM government. Successive governments failed. And it was the first time corporations, councillors had offices, had secretaries. They had VAT exemptions for their vehicles. Today, councillors are being evicted from their offices because they can't pay the rent because of government's lack of releasing funds. This bill is one of the tools that this government appears to want to use to implement the dreaded property tax. And we in the opposition maintain that we will not support any measures to bring any new taxes, to bring property tax at all to the population in this time when people are recovering from the hardships of the COVID pandemic. And many are still jobless. They have been saddled with garbage pile-ups and box drains collapsing because of the neglect of this government. And because of that, regional corporations, our esteemed councillors, aldermen, and chairmen, have had to focus on and grapple with these issues rather than dealing with local government, for instance, promoting inclusiveness and equitable approach to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, to local economic development, which is a critical component of the mandates of local governments throughout the world. The fact that the government has allowed roads in this country to get so bad that an ambulance trying to reach a home on fire in Princestown could not reach and 2 persons died, much less for access to, for instance, local tourism sites, points out how local government is being impacted by the absolute neglect of this government.
Now the debate goes on, and you could catch the entire session on the Parliament View channel on YouTube. Starts off with the questions to the ministers and then goes into this debate on this report. Some of the things, again, I don't necessarily disagree with everything, but at the same time, some of the things that she's blaming the government for, I don't really see the point.
All right, okay, so just before we go to Karen, just to let you know that this debate included the always typical box drains and rats conversation, just to let you know. So look out for that if you do go to Parlerview to see the entire debate. But again, the issue is, fine, fair enough. Khadija Amin's first comment about local government not really being looked after until there seems to be an election is fair. But I'm not going to say it's only something that is only practiced by the People's National Movement government. I think it's something that we've seen time around local government throughout the years. Obviously doesn't get the attention that it needs, and therefore it cannot carry out the responsibilities that it is there for. And during an election season, that is when you see a lot of things being pushed and a lot of things being getting done. However, where I take issue with the response on the part of Khadija Amin, especially being the shadow minister of local government, in her response stating that it's Mamaga and whatnot, she actually didn't focus on the bill. She didn't actually critique the bill. And that is the thing. So you're speaking about consultations, and this is the thing. Camille Robertson Regis looked directly at the opposition bench and said they had ample opportunity. They had members on board. Khadija Amin didn't even respond to that. That's the thing. It seems as though we went for the whole dramatics and we wanted to push this narrative before you actually focused what was on at hand. And the substance of the bill was not debated at all. And that is where I take issue. You want to respond, and this is where they win. If they touch nerves and if they press nerves, and that is what you go after, rather than critiquing the bill and looking at what is the important part of this debate, then who's losing out? At the end of the day, the opposition in terms of their support and in terms of their strength, and the citizens. Karen, what are your thoughts on everything that we just heard? The side of Camille Robertson Regis and then the response from Khadija Amin.
Okay, I'll try to be brief. Well, I agree with you with the analogy or the use of the reference of snake, because we know that from biblical times what the snake represents. So, I mean, she didn't use curse words, but that was really, really unfortunate, what she said. So that's about what I would say about that. She gave an explanation of the bill. I think with Khadija, and I want to be transparent myself, when I was MP for W. Mira, I have to say that Khadija Amin gave me support. I opened up a small sub-constituency. I invited her. She came. Not only did she come to the opening, but she spoke, and she spoke very well about the work that was being done. 3, yes, box drains do matter. Box drains, pavements, bridges, cleaning, garbage collection. When you speak to people, especially when you do your walkabouts, those are the things that do matter, and those are the local government issues. So yes, they are important on the local level, and those are the things that the man in the street is going to be concerned about. Is there a pavement for him to walk on with his children to school? Is there water being provided? Is there the bridge has been fixed? The bridge is falling down, and they're afraid to. So those are important issues, and so she's right to mention them. Fourthly, I'm not supporting the UNC at all, but I remember one of the things that was said all the time was that all Kamala was doing was building box drains. Well, guess what? That's what the people want. They want the box drains, and finally, I cannot understand how she thinks that you're going to be able to do all these wonderful things unless you have money. And so for her to not support the property tax, I don't know if she's looking at what happened to Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka right now, the government is about in total collapse. And one of the reasons was that the government promised a reduction in taxes. When they reduced the taxes, they simply were not able to pay their bills. And in fact, they reached a point where they can't even bring in fuel, oil, or whatever. So you have to understand that the way the government runs, it needs taxes. And everywhere in the world, very few exceptions, have property taxes. So for her to not support the property tax does not make sense to me. If she wants to show that it is going to be used for local government and not put into the consolidated fund, well, that's another story. So all in all, I would say it's politics, and both Keaton and Sean, you have to forgive me, but I've sat down for years to hear about procurement, but they don't even talk about the National Statistical Institute anymore. I don't even hear them talk about that anymore. I've heard about the Dragonfield, I've heard about Sandals, I've heard about so many things that Look, even the Commission of Inquiry, they talk about, is it worth it? But when are they going to publish the CL Financial Commission of Inquiry? I want it published. It's about 12 years now. So they're bad on implementation. Bad on implementation. So all this sounds very good, but I think that is why she said what she said, and she was right not to focus on in my view, on what the bill said, but on the question of is it the implementation component and those issues.
Well, I think the point you brought up, you're complaining about things local government can't do. This is Ms. Amin. Mm-hmm. But she's saying, no property tax to finance trying to any solution. Because I think even without this proposal, property tax, you said it yourself, the point is for local government bodies to get that revenue to do what they have to do. We had the mayor of Port of Spain basically say, he has to try to find private funding for initiatives. People come to him all the time and he has to look at them and say, there is no money for that. I have no money to give you for whatever idea you have. So I do think this is part of the disconnect with the opposition. But I agree with you. I think that's all three of us questioning the implementation, because the question is, we could try to tax the population, but will it actually be practical? Will we get the revenue? I did not watch the whole debate, nor have I read the whole report, so I do not know if there's any other revenue streams. I would assume that they would have other proposals, but at the end of the day, these are proposals. These are not things set in stone.
Well, as I said, a lot of things always shrouded in controversy. We'll continue to hear the debate as it continues, and we will hear from Alderman Neil Piper. She's already expressed excitement at the bill. Well,
it's interesting that Sandy Grandy's head say he wants...
And that's what I said. She already expressed her excitement at the bill, but what was just announced yesterday, we will hear more from her next week. But Sean, we have not much time left. We have to switch across to another incident that took place within the walls of Parliament yesterday, because there was a battle of heads again, and it was rather interesting. Not because of exactly what went about, but because of the question that was asked and the fact that the Prime Minister, he seemed this rage. I've seen it before.
Frustrated.
Sure. Frustrated.
Let's play the clip. Let's play the clip. It's the other Prime Minister clip, not the first one, but the second one.
Prime Minister, in terms of measurability, Mayor Motley left Guyana with 10,000 jobs. Would it not have been better to go to Guyana than to go to Qatar?
What do you have in Guyana? Why don't go to Guyana if you want to be in Guyana? As a member of Parliament in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, you're always talking about Guyana and Barbados. If you're unhappy here, you're free to go. Nobody has tied you here. Don't come and talk to me about me and what. I am the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, and I speak for Trinidad and Tobago, and I look after Trinidad and Tobago's interests. And if you have interest in Madam Speaker, what is offensive about this? This is the member who disgraced us in New York. Prime Minister. You are the only member of any government. Prime Minister. The only member of any government that met with...
Order! Speaker is on her left. What do you think it is, Balizé House?
Yeah, he's not chairing Balizé House General Council meeting.
Prime Minister. It's rude.
Now, members, all members, I remind you of Standing Order 53. This shouting match across the floor will not be tolerated.
So the importance here is that Guyana apparently is calling for their diaspora to come home, because they need people to work in Guyana to help with their development. And of course, we had the incident where the Prime Minister did not go to an invitation for an energy conference in Guyana. Karen, I do have to ask, does it seem as though the Prime Minister is sort of ignoring any potential from our neighbor to the southeast?
Okay, so you're asking me my opinion, and it is going to be very politically infused, because I do believe that the Prime Minister's rage, and I think it was rage, was because he is tired of hearing about Mia, 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 Mia. Because what he knows and what he understands based on the newspapers and her winning again without an increasing practice and not a peep out of the people is that she has the trust, she has the confidence of her people, and including she seems to be a natural born leader. And I think it gets to the Prime Minister that people consider her more, even you talk to the man in the street, more and have more regard and respect for her than for him. And his choice to go to Doha, which he explained that they were a founding member and 70% of the world's natural gas comes from that organization. But if we want to talk about Caribbean integration and we want to build a CARICOM and a CSME, he has shown in so many ways that that's not his priority, and it sent the wrong message. And at the end of the day, it says that he seems to feel over that Mia Mottley definitely overshadows him. It's something over which he has no control. And of course, his relationship with Ghana has been affected since the change of government. And so that I think what you saw there was an emotive response, and it was a build-up of his anger and frustration that Mia, Mia, Mia. I think that's what he said. He said, Mia, Mia, Mia. I read in the papers anyhow. So it's just like it's getting to him. And he made a wrong decision not to go to the meeting in Ghana, which would be much more profitable to Trinidadians and Tobagonians and to the whole idea of Caribbean integration.
Well, just off of that, I myself share the opinion that it was rage. I think the Prime Minister, and I've seen this before, I think the Prime Minister in himself went into defensive mode. Not only because of the Mia Mottley comment, which as you pointed out, Karen, we're constantly hearing, but also because of the fact that a legitimate question, need I say, was asked in relation to the conference in Ghana. Now, the Prime Minister later calmed down, gave an answer. He stated that TNT was represented by the relevant ministries and other agencies, and TNT's business was conducted. That really does not answer the question, because at the end of the day, I'm still trying to figure out what did we gain from this trip to Qatar. I'm not entirely sure. Even more so, the Guyanese president, Mohamed Irfan Ali, has come to, he came to Trinidad last year. He says Trinidad needs to work with Guyana. Trinidad could be a major manufacturing hub. Y'all could work with Guyana. He identified opportunities and possibilities. And now, as Sean pointed out, they're calling for over 100,000 workers. They need it. They have 10,000 Guyanese living in Trinidad, and they asked them to come back. And the Prime Minister just couldn't answer the question. He went into defensive mode because he hasn't stated what we gained from Qatar. He gave a reason for why going, but you can't say it didn't fit into my schedule because this was the week before Qatar. This was the week before Qatar.
The one thing I want to chime in here is he actually was asked about it first, and this is a follow-up question. And the questioner, it was a back and forth. Now, should the Prime Minister have answered how he did? No, I don't think so. And he really blew up unnecessarily. This is the game. If you don't like the questions, you could dance around it with some grace and let them badger you. The fact that he cannot do that, I think it brings up the question. He was defensive. Is there another reason for him to be defensive? Is it more than just he's tired of being compared to Mia Mottley, who, again, she won zero. There is no opposition in Barbados. She has the full support of her people for the most part, something that he does not enjoy. And to be fair, a lot of politicians around the world don't compare well to Mia Mottley. So part of me just wonders, live with it, This is the political reality you're faced with.
Well, folks, listen, anyway, WESN now breaks for news on the hour. When we return, we'll open up the phone lines and you share your opinion with us this morning. Let's hear from you. Stay tuned to the program.
This season, we talk more about health, wellness, and everything in between. I am so excited to share with you everything about health and wellness so that you can design the life that you've always dreamed of. Join me here on What's Up Doc.
What's Up Doc, Tuesdays and Thursdays here on WESN. content capital.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is it no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit? Yes. What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive, it is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole, it's for all of us in public.
Let your voice be heard. Call Madam Fix-It on WESN, the only place that effectively helps you with your woes. Having problems getting onto government agencies, water woes, NIS and pension problems, potholes, and much, much more. Call me, Madam Fix-It, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right here on WESN. Let me fix it for you.
Burning questions, urgent topics. Welcome back to One on One, the show where we tackle the most current and pertinent subjects that are affecting all citizens, where we ask the hard questions and have in-depth conversations. What separates One on One from other talk shows is that the conversation stems from a younger perspective on topics that affect the fabric of our society. One on One, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. on WESN Content Capital.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Psyched, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
A reminder from WESN. We urge you to protect yourself and others from the spread of COVID-19. Stay safe by taking some simple precautions. Clean your hands often. Use soap and water or an alcohol-based hand rub. Maintain a safe distance from anyone who is coughing or sneezing. Wear a mask. Don't touch your eyes, nose or mouth. Cover your nose and mouth with your bent elbow or a tissue when you cough or sneeze. Stay at home. If you have a fever, cough, and difficulty breathing, seek medical attention. Following the above can help us all to help each other.
Welcome back to Talking Point here on WESN, the Content Capital. Okay, folks, quite a bit that we got into this morning, but we focused mostly on local government, as well as briefly at the end, the Prime Minister's response to questions posed over Mia Mottley and Guyana versus her trip to Qatar. And then Karen, at the beginning of the show, also focused on Senior Counsel Ian McIntyre and his wanting or his request for the complaint that was issued on the part of the former Attorney General to be rescinded by the current Attorney General. Alright folks, let's open up the phone lines now. 623-9376, 622-9338. Call in and join us for the program and let your voices be heard. Let's hear your opinions and thoughts as the latest happening here in Trinidad and Tobago. Do you think that the comparison of Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister to another world, in this instance, this is Myanmar people, that is unfair?
It kind of is. It kind of is, but I've been told we need to take a break.
Folks, we need to take a break. Sorry, we're experiencing some difficulties.
You all know what it is?
Burning questions.
Let your voice be heard. Call Madam Fix-It on WESN, the only place that effectively helps you with your woes. Having problems getting onto government agencies, water woes, NIS and pension problems, potholes, and much, much more. Call me, Madam Fix-It, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right here on WESN. Let me fix it for you.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now, Andy.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
The best for your baby is at thebesttoys.com. From the best strollers, car seats, baby carriers, high chairs, booster seats, rockers, jumpers and bouncers, walkers, baby blankets, feeding accessories, bathtubs. Visit us in store at Forces Flagship McBean. Shop online now at thebesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 332-BABY. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
Gift giving during a lockdown can still be hassle-free with a gift from FanZone with delivery options available nationwide. Visit and browse our Facebook and Instagram pages for all your official licensed merchandise and apparel and have it delivered to your door. Find us on Facebook and Instagram. FanZone, we've got you covered.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit? Yes. What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive. It is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole, is for all of us in public.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m. only on WESN, Content Capital.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Well done to Master Control for bringing us back on, folks. We do apologize for that. But now we reopen the phone lines where we give you the opportunity to have your voices heard. 623-9376, 622-9338. Karen Eunice Teixeira joins us this morning. But back to the original question, Sean. I know we didn't get enough opportunity to fully answer it.
Yeah, basically the long story short is he's going to be compared. It is a little bit unfair because most politicians around the world do not have that reputation, do not have that perception, such a good perception of them. She is the exception to the norm, and he is a bit closer to the norm. So take that for what you will. It's idealistic to want a politician like Mia Mottley, but most countries don't necessarily have one, or at least don't elect them. That's maybe where the exception is. Usually someone this clean and this good tends to get trampled by the machinations of the political machinery.
Karen, your thoughts on that? Is it unfair, this constant comparison? Because I myself on this platform before, I have compared Mia Mottley to Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, but do you think the comparison is unfair?
I don't know if it's a comparison that people are really seeking to make, I guess it's a wishing, a wanting, that I think all of us would love to see our Prime Minister be spoken about in the same way as Mia Mottley spoken about. And I suppose the reason that people do that is because they are saying, well, it's not that it can't be done, because it's being done. And I think it's unfortunate for him to have to be living under her shadow. But really and truly, Sean did make a good point. She's a hard act to follow. But a lot of it has to do with her demeanor, her self-containment, and her sense of confidence, which is not up for sale. So I'm sorry that it is what it is, but it is not so much a dislike for the Prime Minister. I think it's more a wanting, a wishing that we could have a Prime Minister who's acted as she does.
Well, we do have a call on the line from Digger Martin who joins us. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Mr. Shah, Mr. Small, and Ms. Teixeira.
Good morning.
Morning.
All I will have to say about the Prime Minister, his behavior is tantamount to foot-and-mouth disease. I say no more. I want to talk about the land issue with Rambarat.
Okay.
That is my serious thing. He was meticulous. He didn't suffer from any foot-and-mouth disease. He was meticulous to say no cabinet minister had any dealing.
Yes.
What about neighbors? What about friends? What about recusers? Let us put a data point at the Mosquito Creek fiasco. It was in that collapse, there was an allegation that inferior materials was used. They stopped taking materials from St. Lucia and they took it from Tobago. The owner of that Tobago quarry had a lot of allegations as to how he got control of that quarry. Connect the dots. It was a neighbor. It was a good friend. Who are we protecting? I say no more. I'm gone. Have a nice morning.
Have a nice morning. Generally, valuable point in relation to who are we protecting in terms of friends and family. It goes back to nepotism, which is against the law. But I mean,
that's a semantics argument as well.
Laws are not applicable to everyone, is it? Or is it not? Anyway, we have another call on the line from Dick Martin. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen. And
good morning, sir.
Mr. Teixeira as well. I think for local government to work, just my opinion, the Minister of Finance has to remove himself from that. Because it's going to end up the same way as it is happening right now. Any government comes in a power, they're going to starve the opposition corporation of funds and vice versa. So they have to remove him and let the corporation deal with the funding, and they do what they have to do for the neighborhoods in the country.
Yeah.
So, as pertaining to our Prime Minister, sadly to say, he got to control his rage a bit. And it's not becoming our Prime Minister. I mean, it does not make us feel proud to have a Prime Minister like that. Getting around in public, and especially to parliamentarians, and where people listening, and, you know, you cannot explain that kind of behavior.
Yeah.
If that was Mr. Manning, you will never report answer in that kind of way. He will be more diplomatic and try and make a joke out of it. Thank you and good morning, and you all have a good day.
You too. Thank you very much. Good hearing from you. Another caller on the line from Shogunas. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning, Professor.
I saw you and Mr. Rambarat on your station earlier this morning. Did you check out those things I said about him?
No, I've been following this story, but specifically what you were speaking of, the fine details, no, unfortunately.
Oh, you haven't got it yet. Okay. Now, as to oversight, what I said was not a third party have to do oversight. There are people in government who are supposed to do oversight. The minister is the first person in each ministry to provide oversight, and his major way of doing this is by the annual administrative report, which I have spoken on long enough. The president have certain powers of oversight, the parliament have certain powers of oversight, and so forth. Right? And it's these mechanisms which we have in law for oversight is not properly done. The parliament conduct interviews, but they don't ask for the administrative report, which shows you where the breakdown is. Any questions, gentlemen?
Your points on annual administrative reports, the very last point, I hear you speak about it very often on this program, almost every call, and I'm starting to wonder in relation to conducting interviews, they never ask for it. I'm wondering if they're actually aware that something like that exists, especially like when you have GSCs or SSCs. I'm wondering if they actually realize and recognize that that exists. Yeah. Well, yes, that's what it's supposed to be based on.
And you estimate your revenues and expenditure. How are you making budget?
Yeah. No. I'm not speaking about the Minister of Finance or whatnot. I'm talking about generally those. For example, if you have a GSC or SSC, I'm wondering in their interviews, conducting their interviews, asking questions, trying to get more information, you never really hear them asking about that specifically.
Yeah, you don't hear the press. I mean, generally speaking, investigative journalism, and we're a small jurisdiction, so we have to understand the limitations that comes with being a very much smaller country. Investigative journalism is not a thing. I think even in news media around the world, and a lot of places around the world, it's quite limited now because of the pre-pandemic, pre-war economic stress on journalism.
Pandemic. And how do you make a budget then if you don't have administrative reports with the revenue and expenditure estimated? How do you do that?
No. Go ahead, Karen. Go ahead.
Thank you, caller, for
point. Two things. One, how you make a budget. Well, I mean, there's a whole budget division, and they're not starting fresh every year. They have to report every year to Parliament in order to get the funding and get approval of Parliament to spend for the next year, financial year.
Yeah.
What you know for the budget, what you need is the National Statistical Institute, so that you can manage and so that you're able to better manage, better provide the services, correct services, and the correct allocation, because you have data on which you can act. But I just want to make one last point, and that is with regard to Clarence Rambarat. I noticed that the emphasis has been placed on the persons who benefited from the land deals. But you're not hearing anything about the permanent secretary or the senior land surveyor in the department. Should that not be the focus? Because
No, it's
aren't
not.
they the persons with the power? And yet the talk is about those, but that's not where it should go. The way it should go, and that's why I believe Mr. Rambarat had to resign, because I believe that he had been telling the Prime Minister all along and he was not being heard. And so he took the risk and went on national radio and said that he had given that information to the Prime Minister, something like Mary King. And when he did that, he exposed the Prime Minister. Prime Minister was upset and angry because he was saying that you know about this and you have done nothing.
Well, Karen,
and you have done nothing about the permanent secretary.
We do have a call on the line from Tobago, but Sean, what Karen said, did we not discuss this yesterday? We discussed that yesterday, Karen, but we have a call.
Okay, well, there we go.
Good morning, caller.
Morning.
Hi, good morning.
If we are able to pay the land and building tax, how often do we have to pay that?
It hasn't been, I think, land and building tax, to be exact. Karen, I know property tax is annually. Land and building tax, is that also an annual payment?
Yes, annual payment, but they have merged the land and building tax and the municipal corporation tax into one tax called the property tax. So there's no
So it's
land and building tax as of 2009. As of 2009, no one pays any tax, whether it is land and building, because that has been abolished by the Property Tax Act. The municipal corporation, that has been abolished. So no tax, and when there is a tax, it will never be the land and building that has been abolished since 2009.
Go ahead, caller.
Boy, I don't know. I find that we need somebody who would speak to the country and speak to the country properly. I was listening to one of his latest retreat, and to me, like Karen, is coming for some pong too.
All right, caller.
All right, thank you, caller.
Thank you for your contribution. So yeah, property tax is an annual payment, just to make that clear. Land and building tax, as Karen pointed out, since 2009 has been merged, but it's not a separate tax. So going forward, again, that has not been fully implemented. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the extension in order for the submission of property tax forms, that was extended twice. If I'm not mistaken, it's until the end of this month.
All I will point out is the mandatory vaccination, or the get vaccinated or you will be furloughed for the public sector. Look how long that was drawn out, and then to the point where it's a non-issue now because it doesn't matter.
No, Sean, it's not. It was a non-issue because he got bad advice and he could not implement it.
Well, right, but
that is why, and therefore, in not implementing it, we just let it slide. And with the property tax, if you all noticed, that 2009 act that was passed when I was in office, they haven't changed it. They haven't changed it. The UNC came in, they didn't change it. So what's the big problem? Why can't you implement these acts? You have the same act.
Before somebody takes me seriously, the last extension I was aware of was February 28th. It is not until the end of March, just to be very clear about that. Just before somebody takes me very seriously. But the reason why I made that comment is because it goes to show that there is no proper planning before pushing these things. It's not thought through before these things are pushed, as the example of the vaccine mandate by the government, of which private companies actually initiated as well. I know that the Communication Workers Union yesterday actually went to the industrial court for an injunction over two companies that issued a letter to employees stating that because of your unvaccinated status, your contract is no longer valid. And that is what I'm hearing now taking place. So because of no proper planning or oversight, the day after the Prime Minister left for Qatar, the former Attorney General Faris Harawi came out and said, the legislation is there, it is here. When the Prime Minister returns from Qatar, he'll make an announcement on it because it has to go through Cabinet. That never ever happened. And in relation to property tax, well, the last date, as I said, that I was aware of was February 28th, and we really have not heard much about it since then. So I suppose they're now doing their evaluations.
With regards to the vaccination policy, though, I do wonder if part of that, is it that the AG was just, he didn't know what else to say, or is it that the consensus building of Cabinet because we did say we think that the PNM seems to be a bit more individualistic. Maybe that's the best way to put it. If the consensus building of the cabinet does take its time, and then now once they make a decision, say they had an oversight on a minor detail, it's difficult to then now go back and try to sort that out, and maybe that could be, you know, a mundane issue like that. At the end of the day, we would hope our leaders to be more than ordinary, but we do have to wonder to some extent when they reveal so much common human faults with how they speak and communicate and interact. Yeah?
Sean, having been in cabinet,
yes,
I gotta tell you, the Prime Minister is the Prime Minister. And if the Prime Minister, within reason, and he has the support of other members, everybody else is going to stay quiet.
Okay.
Believe me, because okay, so that's number one. And number two, I told you this on this show already. They were relying on some Surratt versus the Attorney General, which is the Equal Opportunity Commission, to say they could pass this legislation by an ordinary, they would need a special majority. And the Surratt case was proven not to support them. And they could find nothing that could make them, in the light of what the Industrial Court had said, what the President had said, what the legislation was saying, they could not find. And that's part of the reason I think that our AG got himself in trouble, because they kept putting it off because they could not implement it. Because if I went to the Privy Council, the government would have been embarrassed, especially since the British do not have that attitude about enforcing mandatory vaccination in the public service.
Yeah. Well, they have a different situation, though.
Folks, there you go. It goes back to, again, Karen pointed out Privy Council on vaccination. It's a possibility that might have embarrassed the Prime Minister. But then it goes back as well to the interview of Clarence Rambrad last week Sunday, and a possibility that by exposing the Prime Minister, a lot more would have been raised.
Well, I mean, I would just say this, the timing still, it's very odd for you to choose to accept his resignation within the week right after. It goes back to just communication and managing expectations. That's part of leadership. That's part of brand identity. Whatever you want to say it, marketing, public relations,
I'll be honest with you. I've assessed the situation, and I think, and this is a personal opinion, I think that Clarence Rambrad was given the opportunity to resign because he was dismissed.
Correct.
In my opinion.
And I would tell you, and I can tell you from being in cabinet, one thing you don't do is embarrass the Prime Minister. If a minister reached to the point that he feels, in my view, that he's reached out to the Prime Minister, told the Prime Minister, asked the Prime Minister not taking him on, he gets so frustrated, he goes on a national radio, I-95, and says that I gave it to the Prime Minister. It now says, well, Mr. Prime Minister, the Prime Minister must have gotten enraged, because what he did is that you have a minister saying to the national community that you knew about this so long and you did nothing yourself. And this is not about the people that the police service, the police are going to arrest, it's about the permanent secretary and senior members of the public service, and you did nothing. And he embarrassed him, so he did not resign. It's either you didn't want to fire him, and Rambrad did the right thing. He resigned so that he could come back. So somebody getting older than him.
So we just want to end. So my last word is to just follow up. And even if that is not necessarily the case, communicating something better than what you have, so that we won't think this is the obvious scenario, would be in the interest of the government. It goes back to the criticisms of how they communicate.
And I'll just say this, we keep harping about communication. We saw the Prime Minister's response yesterday. The Prime Minister, as the highest ranking official within cabinet and the leader of the government, and just the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, perhaps we are hopeless in our cause for communication. Anyway, folks, that's all the time we have this morning for the program. Thank you very much to everyone who joined us, for all our callers. Thank you very much to Karen Yesachar, who joined us today, and to Mr. Sean Michael Small. I'm Keaton Shaw, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.